it's producer Mark at KCMO Talk Radio, and if you're an NFL or college football fan, check out my weekly sports betting podcasts. Search College Pick'em Program or Sunday Sharps wherever you get your podcasts, and hit that subscribe button for my weekly picks, including the Chiefs, Mizzou, Kansas, and K-State. Now here's the Monday in the Morning podcast.
You are in a new town, a new country. America is so back, baby. Woo! Good morning. Happy Wednesday, post-election day on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We are streaming all morning long on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Donald Trump is the comeback kid. Donald Trump will be the 47th president of the United States of America, and he did it last night in historic fashion. Young men turned out. Black men turned out. Latinos turned out. Working class voters turned out. Women did not break for Kamala Harris in key districts like they expected them to break for Kamala Harris. This was a complete repudiation of everything the progressive movement has tried to shove down the throat of every reasonable, traditional American over the last 4 years. Let's be very clear. Donald Trump woke up on January 7th, 2021, and his political career and his reputation had gone down in flames. Donald Trump is not supposed to be heading back to the White House today, but he is. And it's because of a movement that superseded everything the media tried to sell you, everything the media tried to sell the American people, every name in the book that they called Donald Trump over the last 8-9 years. The American people said, we don't believe you. And then Joe Biden walked into office, and he had a pretty good setup. Joe Biden walked in. COVID was in the past. You know, he had the whole vaccine for people that wanted it. The economy was getting back on track. And what did he do? He lit up trillions of dollars, printed the money, set off inflation. The world went to hell in a handbasket. The worst actors on planet Earth had zero fear of American leadership. And you saw what happened in Ukraine. You saw what happened in the Middle East. And you see what China has been brewing for quite some time. And the American people said, you know, I don't really care what the media tells me about Donald Trump. Fine, he may not be the most moral guy, but guess what? I don't go to my presidents for moral compass. I don't know about you, but I don't do it. That's what you have family and friends and confidants and people at your places of worship for. That's where you find people that you want to be your moral leaders, not in your necessarily president of the United States, especially given the moment in time that the American people and the world find themselves in right now. And those are dangerous times on the world stage, and those are treacherous times back here at home. Last night was two massive middle fingers to what MSNBC has wanted to drive this country towards for many, many years. And the American people said, we're not doing it. And it was in red states, and it was in blue states. Here in Kansas and Missouri, I want to break through these numbers real quick. Donald Trump went in Kansas last night, 57-41. That is an increase from where he was 4 years ago when he won 56-42. So he did about a point better. He won Kansas by 16 points. Remember, there was that cute little poll from Fort Hays State that dropped last week, and it said Trump was only up by 5 in Kansas. Just like that joke of a poll up in Iowa done by Ann Selzer, who's like the gold standard, or was. She can't say that anymore. She was the gold standard of polling up in Iowa with the Des Moines Register. She said Harris was up 3. How did that play out last night? Oh, Trump won by 14. On the Missouri side of our state line, Donald Trump also grew his vote from 57 to 58% from 4 years ago. Now, these are two deep red states, but still, people were motivated. They showed out to vote. But it wasn't just in our neck of the woods. It was everywhere around the country where you saw a shift towards Donald Trump, which is why he is leading the popular vote this morning, which a Republican has not done since George W. Bush in 2004. California Crazy California shifted about 6 points towards Trump. Biden won at 63-35, and right now, with only 54% of the votes in, but it's 57-40, Harris to Trump. New York, 90% of the votes are in there. Kamala appears to have won it by 10. 4 years ago, Joe Biden won it by 23. New Jersey, Biden won it by 16. Harris won it by 4. Last night was not like red America, middle America, us here in the heartland just sticking it to the progressive left. It wasn't. It was men and women, traditional, everyday Americans who just want to wake up every day, mostly be left alone, not called racist, not called misogynistic, not called fascist, who want relatively low taxes, a closed border, groceries that are coming in at a reasonable price. They want to be able to afford a home. What you saw was people who just want to live the American dream again. That's what you saw. And they clearly had zero faith in Kamala Harris and the left to deliver it. And by the way, based on the data and the results of the last 4 years, they were right to feel that way. They failed at every turn. Everything they promised the American people, they failed at every turn.
You bet. To your point about saying, or the people reached out to me and said, we don't believe you. I believe they even said, we know better.
Yeah, absolutely. They do know better. Donald Trump last night addressed Mar-a-Lago and the American people at about 2:30 in the morning. And he said something last night that stood with me and stuck with me as I watched it this morning. And he talked about the next 4 years being a golden age for America.
Thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. And to every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have.
And hopefully he's right about that. Republicans have won the Senate. Things are trending their way in the House, and that will give Donald Trump about a 15 to 18-month runway up until the 2026 midterms to really get a lot done. There's a lot he can obviously do via executive order when it comes to reinstituting reasonable, smart, and safe border policies, but it will take some congressional action to get the big things done. And God willing, come January of 2025, he is going to be able to do it. You still got a little Village People in there for me, Mark? Can you roll that into the break for me, brother? Because, man, this is a party this morning. I was up till 11 o'clock last night, 11:30. I couldn't fall asleep. Girls were up in and out throughout the night. My second showed up in the bedroom at 2 a.m. She was fired up for Trump. That's when I found out, by the way. She wakes us up at 2 in the morning. And I'm like, don't look at your phone, don't look at your phone, don't look at your phone. Because I know if I look, I'm not going to be able to stop. Well, I looked, and then I see Trump wins, and then I can't fall asleep for a half hour. I didn't wake up Kate because I know she's exhausted, and I didn't want to put her in a bad mood for the morning, even though that would have put her in a good mood. But I just said, you know what? I will let her sleep. I will let her wake up to the good news, and we will roll it from there. Let's go. That's right. The big man's coming. Good morning. Happy Victory Wednesday on KCMO. We talk a lot about Victory Mondays here on 95.7 FM, but today is a Victory Wednesday, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the Kansas City Chiefs, although they're 8-0 as well.
And a Red Wednesday. I mean, you just keep going. Red Friday, Red Monday, Red Tuesday, Red
That's
Wednesday.
right. It is a Red Wednesday, and I should have known last night when I was at KCTV5 doing some work with former Kansas City Mayor Sly James, and Sly had on his red glasses, and it was a thing of beauty to watch. The last thing I said to him, we were talking about the presidential race on the 10 p.m. news last night. And he said, it's going to take some time. It's going to take days for these votes to come in and find out who the winner's going to be. And the last thing I said to him, I said, well, you know what? Right now, Sly, when you look at it, I gave him the old Yogi Berra line. It's getting late early, because it was becoming pretty obvious that Kamala Harris was going to have to sweep the blue wall of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania to win this thing. And it was not looking good for her in any of those three states. There were early exit polls suggesting that Donald Trump in Wisconsin had received 26% of the black male vote, an unprecedented number, 2.5 times where it was 4 years ago. Now, exit polling is not perfect. You can't rely on exit polling. A lot of people thought in 2004 that John Kerry was going to be the next president because of exit polling. But when you looked at where the votes were coming in and where the votes were not coming in from, combined with the exit polling, it became very clear at about 11 o'clock last night that Kamala Harris was not looking good. And then when I saw and read reports that CNN was getting ghosted by Kamala Harris's team, and MSNBC reports that she's putting a lid on the night, that to me was when it was game, set, match. But this station, this show, for the last 6.5 going on 7 years now, has always been about you. I've been here for a 2018 midterm where the Republicans didn't do great. Didn't do awful, but didn't do great. Lost seats. 2020, we all know about that mess. And then 2022, 2 years ago. Everyone projected red wave, and it was a red drip, a red puddle. This is the most celebratory day we have had with you right here on 95.7 FM in going on 7 years of doing this show. Doesn't feel like that long, but it has been. So let's go to you at 913-408-7957. We got a lot to get to this morning. Let's start with Paul in Kansas City. Paul, you're first up. Good morning, my man.
Hey, brother, great day. Just a couple of points. The Scarborough, those guys are melting down saying that 71 million Americans, the only reason she lost is because of gender bias and racism. And then the great state of Israel, thank God Tel Aviv is celebrating today because they got a friend now. We're back in business. And then my final point is there's 3 other people having a meltdown. That's Starmer, the PM over in England, the socialist, Macron in France, and Olaf in Germany. We're no longer going to do the bid to Western Europe. America is going to lead from the front because President Trump's going to make sure that no soldiers get sent to the Russian front. Great day, Pete.
Thank you very much there, Paul. Well said, buddy. Well said. There's no doubt. And this is what's fascinating, too, as Kamala Harris ran around cable news and around the swing states with Liz freaking Cheney. The world becomes a much safer place with Donald Trump in charge. Because Donald Trump is the bully we need right now to bully the bullies. Sometimes you need a bully to bully the bullies, and that's exactly what Donald Trump is. The bullies around the world were picking on the weak link, and that was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris by extension. That was Iran. That was Vladimir Putin. That was President Xi. All the worst actors on the planet were picking on Joe Biden. Well, the bullies need to be put back into their place, and that will deliver far more world peace than what we've seen over the last 4 years. 913-408-7957. Let's continue and go to Jonathan. You're on KCMO. What's up, man?
Hey, Pete. I actually felt really good about the last few days because I worked the early voting, and we closed the machine on Saturday, and I looked at that machine. Harris was underperforming not only Biden significantly, but she was fairly underperforming by Hillary, and it's a southern area of the city, heavy minority. And when I looked at that, I thought, okay, there's no way she's going to pick up these cities in the Rust Belt. She needs, you need the urban and the minority turnout. And if you're not getting it here, you're not getting it in those places. You're not going to get I thought Trump would sweep all 7. Not only that, when I looked at you're underperforming Hillary by a fair amount, I thought Trump's going to win the popular vote by 2 or 3. I might be close on that. And I thought he's going to win Missouri by 20, and I think he got like 19. So I
18.
was like,
yeah. Well, there is not. Thank you,
so
Jonathan.
I looked at that and I thought, you know what? I think it's going to be a really good night. But obviously we had to wait till Tuesday.
Well, Wednesday. Yes, you're right. We waited just a little bit. Heck, if you told me we wake up today with an answer, I would have said sign me up for that. So to jump off of the point that Jonathan just made, this was on CNN last night where they looked and tried to find anywhere that Kamala Harris outperformed Donald Trump or outperformed Joe Biden from 4 years prior. They couldn't find one place in the country.
So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming in 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
They could not find one place in the country where Kamala Harris outperformed Joe Biden, did better than Joe Biden. I mean, it doesn't exist. Even in Johnson County, Kansas, it was basically the same. Kamala won by 8 points. Biden won by 8 points. There is not a place in America where Kamala Harris outperformed Joe Biden. And that's because she was an inherently bad candidate. It was Veep meets The Office. And the policies of the last 4 years, the American people sent a clear signal on, they ain't here for. They don't like it. 913-408-7957. The celebration continues with you and more results next. 6:34 on a celebratory Wednesday on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM, streaming all morning long on the KCMO Talk Radio app. If you are just waking up, Donald Trump will be the 47th president of the United States. The Republicans have flipped the United States Senate in a big way. They are trying to now grow those margins beyond where they are expected to be. They're at 52 right now. They could end up with 54 Senate seats. The House is still up for grabs, but it's looking more and more likely that they can also hold on to that. So this is a complete repudiation of everything that MSNBC world and the progressive movement, the diehard progressive movement. I'm not talking old school blue dog Democrats. I'm talking the diehard progressive movement has tried to jam down the throats of regular Americans for the last several years. And everyday Americans said, I don't like it, and I'm done with it. And I don't care if I'm electing somebody that you tell me is a racist every single day and a fascist and Hitler 2.0. That is where this election was lost for Kamala Harris. When her campaign went away from joy, and it was fake joy, but at least it was different from Donald Trump. When her campaign went away from that and went dark, and went into calling Donald Trump every name in the book, it backfired in a major way because everybody knew Donald Trump. There was nothing more to know about Donald Trump. He is the most famous man in the world. People wanted to know about you. You were a progressive DA from San Francisco. Right away, that ain't going to play well in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. You don't do any press conferences. You did no media for 6 weeks. And people say, tell me about you. No one voted for you until the last couple of weeks. There was no primary. You were installed as the candidate, and then you screamed about democracy. It was just dripping with irony, the way they approached the campaign. We're here to save democracy. That's why nobody voted for the candidate, and we didn't allow anybody to vote for the candidate who's at the top of our ticket. That just screams democracy, doesn't it? And the American people said, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, you fill in the rest. 913-408-7957. Let's go to St. Joe. That's where John is this morning. John, what's up, buddy?
Well, I got up about 4 o'clock and was listening to ESPN and CNN just for grins. and I learned a new term that I am a double hater. So that's, I guess, the new term.
Oh, what now? Why? Explain this double hater thing to me, if that's what we're going to be called here. 70+ million Americans.
They were going on about how Trump was a hater, blah, blah, blah. And then it turned out the voters for Trump are double haters.
Double haters.
So there you are.
That
Kinda
sounds
like
pretty scary.
Kind of like your double bird, I think.
Yeah, well, you know what? They can take their double haters and they can receive the double bird.
I'm going to make a T-shirt.
Well done, my man. Hey,
congratulations on great coverage of the whole thing.
Hey, I appreciate that. Somebody put on my Facebook, I posted this morning, make sure you're tuned in. We're going to have a good time this morning. And somebody posted saying, Pete, thanks to you, John, and Mark, and the entire team. Hey, we're just here for a good time. All right? We're just here for a good time. We had very little to do with any of this. We're just here to celebrate with you. I mean, you're the ones that made this happen. Let's go to Tim in St. Joe. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Pete, good morning. You know, Camel Cackle Pants did not deserve to be the first female president, and I'm celebrating with you. This is the dawning of a new day, and I'm really hopeful, and I'm so glad that the right man won.
All right. Attaboy there, Tim. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. 913-408-795-7. Bert's and Polo. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Pete, what a glorious day it is today. Orange man good.
Such a nice man.
Orange man good there, Bert. I like that, my man.
Hey, as a peace offering for all the Democrats and stuff and the liberals, cat soup is on me today.
Oh, God. Well, if Taylor...
I haven't felt so good in so long, Pete. It's a great day.
Hey, if Taylor Swift's in town, she may want a bowl of that, you know?
Yeah, maybe we'll get her chef to bake some up for her or something.
Oh, that's great. Well done, my man. Well done. 913-408-7957. Shane's and Adrian. What's up, Shane?
Morning, Pete. I was just curious as to your thoughts. I know that not all the popular vote numbers are tallied up yet because not quite everything is in, or at least last time I checked. But I was curious on your thoughts, or if anyone in the media is talking about how there was 81 million votes in 2020 for Joe Biden and 75 million votes for Donald Trump. And the way we're polling right now, we're about 10 million shy of that. I was just curious anyone's thoughts, since there was no looked at widespread election fraud in the last election, and why 10 million voters all of a sudden didn't turn out, especially if Donald Trump is so evil as what they say.
Well,
I'll leave you with God bless America. Glad he won.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for that, Shane. Here's what I would say to that, and I don't think it's a difficult answer. I think the answer is pretty simple, right? Like, Donald Trump voters 4 years ago were always going to be more likely to show up in person, whether it was on Election Day or, of course, early voting. Republicans wisely embraced the early voting strategy. Democrats 4 years ago very effectively mobilized their base through mail-in voting. Now, don't forget, 4 years ago also, there was great backlash against Donald Trump. The media drummed that up due to COVID. You had all the George Floyd racial tensions that the media fabricated as well happening. So they were able to basically take the ignorant voter and say, hey, we've made this easier than ever. Here's a ballot in the mail. Fill it out, send it back. They played the game to perfection. They unfortunately used COVID, I believe, in large part to their advantage. But I think that explains the big drop-off. And it's pretty easy to explain it from that perspective. And then just also clearly a lack of enthusiasm for this candidate that they tried to sell the American people on, a candidate who was just not endearing at all and was not appealing to most regular Americans, left of center, right of center, outside of the diehard progressive. This was not an appealing candidate to Latinos, to black men especially. I mean, you see some of these numbers coming out. My goodness. I mean, it is a bloodbath. Now, figuratively speaking, of course, Donald Trump, they tried to use that one against him, right? When he said the car industry was going to have a bloodbath if he loses. It's going to be a bloodbath in America if Donald Trump doesn't win. But when you compare these numbers to where Democrats had been with working class voters, with union workers, with minority groups, I mean, these are all things that they are sucking wind with big time. Weston Gladstone, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, Pete, the difference in the popular vote, I heard what you just said, but there's no way legitimately Biden got 81 million votes. No way.
Well, it doesn't matter, Wes. I mean, who cares, man? It's the comeback story. Like, what are we doing? Let's live in the now, brother. I mean, I disagree, but why are we arguing about that today? Let's just have a great time.
I think what it shows is mail-in voting is a bad. Oh man.
I know you were up late celebrating, too much whiskey, too many cigars. I get it, Wes. I get it.
I went to bed early because I thought they were going to steal it. Okay, I'm as happy as anybody, and the best revenge is to lead a great life, and Donald Trump has done that.
Yeah, you know what? Here, let me add this to the equation, Wes. Let me just say this: what if Donald Trump's legacy and the way he's viewed by history is going to be better because of the fact that he won in 16, lost in 20, and then has this comeback story here in 24. If he had won in 2020, now I think the country would be better off today, and the country suffered a lot of pain over the last 4 years. But what if, if we were wrapping up 8 years of Donald Trump right now, there would be Trump fatigue. And if we didn't deal with the years of inflation, the border policies, and everything else, there probably would be a Democrat coming into office right now. There'd be Trump fatigue. People would say, I'm sick of the guy. I've had enough of Trump. But now you have 2 4-year resumes to put side by side. One very progressive and then Trump's. And then to have Trump come back in as the comeback kid, as the savior in many ways. And I don't mean that from a faith perspective. I just mean from a political perspective. Please don't misinterpret what I'm referring to Donald Trump as. But as someone who's going to re-implement policies that the American people vastly prefer, it could change the country for a generation as people stack these 4-year resumes side by side. Donald Trump's to Joe Biden's and Kamala Harris. And that will be burnt into their memory, hopefully, for a long time to come. 913-4087-957 at 645. I know we're celebrating with you all morning long here on KCMO. A lot of local results we are going to get to as well on KCMO Talk Radio, the app, iHeart, Google, Alexa, everywhere, all morning long. How you feeling this morning, Kansas City? Let's go. Woo! 6:51, Donald Trump is set to be the next president of the United States. It got called very early in the morning at about 2 a.m. I was fast asleep. Many of you had probably called it a night. Maybe some of you are on a 24-hour bender at this point. You haven't slept since 2 nights ago. I don't know. Johns and Gardner, what's up, buddy?
Hey, good morning, Pete. Yeah, I was up all night. First of all, thank you for everything you guys have done. I mean, you were just like an anchor. I'm just glad you were there over the past few months. I got to tell you, great job. I should be like partying and happy and euphoric, but I'm relieved and I'm very grateful. And I loved the bump in like the Latino numbers in the black support. The popular vote. It's like Trump did this without having to pick a token running mate or just anything. He was just like Trump. He sent the message. It was a pretty well-run campaign straight down the line. And we just came together as a country and just, enough of this open borders crap and the trans stuff and the guys in the girls' locker rooms, just all the crazy crap. It's just like we all said, all of us across the board, racially, economically, whatever. It's just like, let's just get back to America. And I'm just we're not going to pack the courts. We're not going to have the open borders. We're not going to have all the liberal crap. I'm just grateful that there's still sanity,
Well, there is, and the shift is in blue states as well, John. Thank you, man. I mean, you've got New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, California moving 10-plus points in some cases to the right in deep blue states. And that's, if the Democrats have any moment of self-reflection, they will realize that their problem is they went too far to the left and they became too much of a party, and they are right now too much of a party that really caters to people with 7 different college degrees, the PhD class, and the Karens. But even the Karens didn't carry them. There weren't enough Karens for them to get carried across the finish line. And they thought the Karens would carry them. And the Karens did not carry them. And in the meantime, Black Americans, Latino Americans, working class Americans of all colors, Jewish Americans, all shifted towards Donald Trump. That is what should worry them, and that hopefully, for the sake of the party and the sake of the country, because a more moderate, like Bill Clinton's Democratic Party, would be called fascist today by the modern left standards. And that's not a good thing for America, right? I mean, Bill Clinton would not recognize today's Democratic Party. Now, I know he pretends to play along, but that's just because I think Hillary tells him what to do. Meantime, 913-408-7957. Just to give you some rundown here of things that happened locally. By now you know that the Republicans swept in Missouri. Sharice Davids won re-election in Kansas. Republicans won the other 3 congressional races. There was nothing statewide in Kansas. Those races are coming up in a couple of years. Johnson County Sheriff's race was won by Democrat Byron Roberson. He is the Prairie Village Police Chief. He wins it by a point, 50.5 to 49.5 over Republican Doug Bedford. Now, Doug Bedford, DeSoto Police Department, had worked under Cal Hayden, the current sheriff, a Republican, beat him in a primary. And a lot of people thought, myself included, he was probably going to eke out a win. Instead, Byron Roberson, Prairie Village Police Chief, is going to be the next sheriff in Johnson County. I think Byron Roberson is a good lawman. My fear with Byron was, and remains, more the people around him. Not him. I think he's a good lawman who wants to do right and will want to do right by the county and just, implement the law. But I admit some of the people in that inner circle, from an advisory perspective, I'm fearful could swing him in a political direction, even though it's really not a political job. It's not. 913-408-7957. Colby's in Overland Park. Go ahead, Colby. I got a minute for you.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, Pete. It looks like the country got it right. They got rid of chlamydia, Harris, and the Komodo dragon neckline.
Okay, come on, Colby. Could you have any grace whatsoever? I mean,
none whatsoever. None whatsoever.
Okay, so go ahead, Colby. Go ahead. I'll give you one more shot.
I can't believe. I don't know how that little perverted cockroach, Sharice Davids, got back in.
Colby, gosh, you're such a turd. Come on, man. Let's have fun. Let's celebrate. My gosh. I mean, do what Trump said. Did you hear Trump's victory speech last night? It was all positive. It was all, this is going to be a golden age for America. It was all like, rah, rah, America, celebrate, we won. I mean, Colby, you got to relax a little bit, man. That attitude is not going to continue to win elections. I promise you that. And if you can't be happy and joyful and celebratory on a morning like this, I don't know when you're going to be joyful and happy and celebratory. This is, frankly, when you look at it from America's perspective and what the country's been through the last several years, it's the best day we've had in almost a decade. I mean, you do you. I mean, if you want to go on Facebook and do that stuff, fine. But I'm just here for a good time this morning. And I'm not going to let anybody ruin that good time. And none of us should let anybody ruin that good time. We are riding high on adrenaline right now. We're fired up. Trump's going back to the White House. Senate's flipped Republican. House is looking good. Let's just enjoy it. Let's have a good time this morning. How macho are you feeling this morning? America, Kansas City, good morning. It is great to be here on KCMO Talk Radio. America is so back. 7:06 on an election victory Wednesday morning. Also streaming all morning long on the KCMO Talk Radio app, the iHeart app, the TuneIn app, and your Alexa and Google Home. Just tell it, if you're working from home, to play KCMO Talk Radio. Last night was a repudiation on Joe Biden, on Kamala Harris, and on the most progressive movement and administration of my lifetime, and arguably ever. And that's what it was. The polling appears to be off once again. Donald Trump was underpolled. It's one of the reasons I said yesterday that I thought that Trump was going to win. And when 5 of the 7 swing states that were out there, it looks like he might win all 7 of the swing states that are out there. When you look at the numbers, he won North Carolina. He won Georgia. He won Pennsylvania. He won Wisconsin. We are waiting on Michigan, Nevada, and Arizona, even though it doesn't matter. And Donald Trump is leading in all of those states right now. He may go 7 for 7 in the swing states. And that's because the everyday average American didn't buy what Kamala Harris was selling, what Joe Biden was selling, and what a legacy media establishment was selling, what Taylor Swift was selling, what Bruce Springsteen was selling, what Cardi B and Beyonce were selling, what LeBron James was selling. They said, I just want to afford groceries. The whole thing of, democracy and abortion and January 6th didn't move the needle. Because those are not the things that most people think about when they wake up every day. If you're like me and you've got a young family, you say to yourself, wait, that Costco bill was what this week? You say to yourself, wait, I look at what I've got versus what I had, and you say to yourself, well, I just want to save some more money for myself and my family, and it feels like I got less of it. Those are the things that people are thinking about every day, right? That's what they wake up and they think about. They don't think about January 6th like it's September 11th, which is what they tried to compare it to at times. They don't sit there and think about democracy, whatever that means. And they certainly aren't going to be sold democracy from people who tried to get a vice president elected without a primary process who nobody had ever voted for in their lives outside of Californians. That was always very disingenuous. And people who are called garbage and Nazis said, you know what? I'm not garbage. I'm not a Nazi. I'm not a fascist. I just kind of see what's going on in the country, and I'm not a fan of it. And that's what last night was about. And it wasn't just in the swing states. Kansas and Missouri broke for Donald Trump by a couple extra points versus 4 years ago. Remember that dopey poll out of Fort Hays State that said Donald Trump was only up 5 points in Kansas? Yeah, that was comical. He won by 16. But it was also in places like New York. Joe Biden won by 23 points. Kamala won by 10. You go to places like Virginia. Kamala Harris won it by 5 points last night. Joe Biden won Virginia by 14. There was a massive movement across the board away from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the progressive left in this country. That's what it was last night. And the polling was always going to be suspect. Because, and this is what I told you yesterday, I thought that Trump would win about 291 electoral votes. But I can't tell you how many people would text me and even talk to me here in the Kansas City area. And they'd say, oh, man, the Kamala signs, they're just all over the place. Like, what's that mean in suburbs around the country? And I would say to them, listen, calm down, relax. You and I both know that the most likely person to put up a yard sign in this environment is the virtue signaling Kamala Harris voter in a suburb. Doesn't mean anything. Now, yes, many suburbs, including Johnson County, broke for Kamala Harris, but the numbers are about the same as 4 years ago. Johnson County is the same right now when you look at the numbers as it was 4 years ago. It didn't break for Kamala Harris any more than it did Joe Biden. Now, there's no doubt Democrats should view Johnson County as their county right now, but it was still an 8-point margin. But I had people saying to me, oh, my goodness, Kamala's going to win this thing by 10, 12 plus points. And that didn't happen. But the people who are most likely to respond to polls, talk to pollsters, put up their yard signs, were going to be the suburban progressive Democratic voter. But that's not representative of the country at large or even more suburban districts at large. When you look at some of the numbers, and the numbers are still coming in, what you saw is that suburban women in particular did not break for Kamala Harris like her campaign needed them to break for Kamala Harris. Their whole strategy was run up the suburban female vote. Even if it means they'd get crushed in rural areas, which they did, they also would suffer in some urban areas. They didn't run up the numbers in urban areas. But if they ran up the numbers with college-educated, especially college-educated suburban women, that would make up for all the other losses they were suffering with the working class. And it didn't happen. That's why they had those advertisements that we played a lot over the last couple of weeks, where, you know, they would have a female middle-aged woman walking into a poll with her husband, and her husband thinks that she's going to go vote for Trump, and then she kind of gives a nod to another female and votes for Kamala Harris. They were hoping that would happen, and it didn't. And there's going to be a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking where they're going to point the finger and say, oh, if only we picked Josh Shapiro as VP. That is not what this race was about. Josh Shapiro was not going to save them from the results that took place last night. 913-408-7957. Let's go to Sherry in Overland Park on KCMO. Hi, Sherry.
Hey, good morning, guys. I went to bed at 2:30 and I woke up at 5, literally feeling my face. I was smiling in my sleep, and I realized Kamala did have one thing right. This election is about joy. I felt so much joy. And to her supporters, I just want to tell them to keep Kamala and carry Onala.
Very well done, Sherry in Overland Park. Nice work. 913-408-7957. As we roll through the morning on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We're streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Real quick, Judy, go ahead. You're on KCMO, Judy.
Yeah, I want to make 3 very quick points. 1 is my cup runneth over. 2 is God does answer prayers. And 3 is I'm not the smartest woman, not like Hillary Clinton, but I'm smart enough to know that what Kamala was selling is not what I was buying.
And there are tens of millions of Americans, thank you, Judy, in that very same boat this morning. In red states here in Kansas and Missouri, but also in blue states that shifted 10 to 15 points towards Donald Trump. That is what should concern them. 913-408-7957. We'll continue the celebration this morning with you on KCMO. Mike Kehoe is the next governor of Missouri. He will be here at 8:05 on 95.7 FM KCMO, and we're streaming all morning long on the KCMO Talk Radio app, the iHeart app, and the TuneIn app. That's right. Bongino is going to be money today at noon. You've got Guy Benson, your new afternoon drive show here on 95.7 FM, 3 to 5 every day. He just joined us last month in perfect timing to get Guy Benson here on KCMO. There is so much to look at and so much to dive into this morning. And speaking of Bill O'Reilly, we're trying to get him on at some point in the next couple of days. So as soon as I have that information, you'll know about it. Follow me on X, on Instagram, and on Facebook, and we will get you all hooked up Just search Pete Mundo on X, Instagram, and Facebook, and we'll tell you about it there. I just heard some commentary. I won't say where I heard it. I had to run to the bathroom during the break. I'm drinking too much coffee. Got home at 11:15 last night from KCTV5, so I'm trying to make it. I know I'm going to make it. I could do this show until 2 p.m. today. I'm so fired up. But, when you're drinking coffee as fast as I am, it's just going right through me. And there was some commentary on another radio station, and they're blaming sexism. If that's your takeaway on last night, Donald Trump's only won twice because he's going up against women, and America's just not ready for that first female president. No. Please believe that, because if that's a takeaway for the Democrats here, they won't have learned a single lesson whatsoever. They won't. If you think Joe Biden just beat him 4 years ago because he was a man and a dude, and now it's like, well, America's just a sexist nation. If you don't think that it was about a rejection of policy and a rejection of the last 4 years, but rather a rejection of the anatomy of Kamala Harris, you are completely clueless as to what happened last night in this country, John.
Well, if I were thinking of America's best women to be president, these are two candidates that would be at the bottom of the list. I could come up with probably 20 others.
I could as well.
So I think it's more about your qualifications.
Hillary Clinton
or
was
lack thereof.
Far superior candidate.
Correct.
To Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Kamala
Agreed.
Harris was one of the worst candidates you could find to try to appeal to Rust Belt voters in particular. But remember, they really had no choice. They were too late in the game. They wanted Biden out, and the hundreds of millions of dollars that they had raised for Biden could only transfer to Kamala Harris. So it was either continue with a vegetable or take a shot with Kamala. Because and I know the donor class was not going to be like, well, sure, go burn my $100 million somewhere. The only place it could legally shift to was Kamala Harris. The best thing that could have happened in hindsight for the Democrats is the day after the red wave did not transpire 4 years ago, Biden could have said, I'm stepping down. We've done a decent job here in the midterms. Now I'm too old. I'm going away. I beat Donald Trump. Let's have a primary. I'm not convinced they would have won, but it would have been a lot better than handing the keys to Kamala Harris, who has turned out to be a historically bad candidate. And it's not because of her gender. But I am glad that Democrats now know what a woman is again, apparently. That is something that I will take some solace in, because they couldn't tell me that up until, I guess, this morning when a female lost. So go figure. John's in Lewisburg. What's up, John? You're on KCMO. Good morning.
Pete, all I can say is this. The sun is rising in America today. Go Trump. Whoa!
Attaboy. Attaboy.
Such a nice man.
All right, John, you're fired up there, buddy. I like it. 913-408-7957. Elizabeth is in Leavenworth. Hello, Elizabeth. Good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to call and help celebrate with you guys. I'm very excited that Trump won. Me and my husband were up late last night till about noon, and I'm already at work, so go Trump.
Wait, you were up till midnight last night? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, we decided to go to bed after we saw Georgia called.
That's very good. Very good. I mean, I know people. Well done there, Elizabeth. Hey, I know you're running on adrenaline right now this morning, like many of us are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, hey, enjoy the day, Elizabeth. You deserve it.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Rick in Leavenworth. What's up, buddy?
Hey, it's a joyous day in the Republic, my friend. And I was up all night. I watched it until they called Pennsylvania because I wanted to make sure. But let me tell you this. The Democrats didn't get it. They're already on the defense. They're talking about how they can change their narrative to continue on the path that they're on. They are making the mandate that Republicans come to them and cross the aisle. They already talked about last night. I forget her name. She has the red hair. She was on one of the talk shows or one of the shows last night about resistance. So get ready for the riots. But we won.
Yeah.
And the work is coming.
Psaki, would it have been Jen Psaki?
It was.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
the former press secretary. Yep.
Roger.
Listen, I am hopeful that this will have been a race that appears to be not all that close by today's standards. That there should be no craziness. I have not yet seen anything, and if something comes out this morning to suggest otherwise, on any kind of contested nonsense, Trump's going to win 300-plus electoral votes. And more importantly, the state margins appear to be pretty large. So I'm just not sure what you're possibly going to protest at this point. I mean, if Democrats are going to protest something, they should protest themselves. They should protest their own party's failures over the last 4 years that led to the point where there was not a single county in the country that shifted in their direction.
So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming in 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
Jake Tapper, John King last night. Not one county Kamala overperformed Joe. That is what the Democratic base should be protesting this morning. Pete Mundo on KCMO. We talk a lot about Red Mondays around here and Red Fridays. How about Red Wednesdays? Let's go! Woo! Good morning, Pete Mundo, 820 on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. As we continue on with you and your reaction, how you're feeling this morning, and just everything that is on your mind. I've been here for almost 7 years now. And 2018 midterms, bit of a letdown. 2020, don't want to relive that. 2022, red wave, red wave, red wave, red puddle. This, by far, the most celebratory I have heard you. I have heard this audience. And, man, it is a lot of fun to be here and know that America is back. And Donald Trump said as much last night.
Thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. And to every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day, I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have.
As I spent time thinking about this early this morning, I woke up. We had our second Chloe wake us up at about 2 a.m. last night. I guess she found out Trump won. She couldn't help herself at 3 years old. Now she's going through this thing. It's like 2 weeks now where every night she's waking up at 2 a.m. and walking into our room. So I didn't know until I woke up at about 2 a.m. that Trump had won. And then I started thinking about, and I started seeing some of the clips on what he was saying down at Mar-a-Lago last night. And I thought to myself, you know what? What if Donald Trump's comeback story actually helps him in the way he's viewed in American history? If we had not gone through the last 4 years of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the failures on inflation, the overspending that caused inflation coming out of COVID, I mean, lighting trillions of dollars on fire that literally sparked the inflation of 2021 and 2022. We saw the worst actors in the world suddenly feel very aggressive and emboldened during Joe Biden's 4 years. And it gave a lot of, I think, just regular people a chance to say, well, you know what? As much as Donald Trump was kind of a knucklehead sometimes, and as much as I wish he would, have a different approach to a lot of things and stop worrying about a lot of minutia, overall, he did govern pretty damn effectively. And the worst actors on the world stage were at bay. Iran did not have billions of dollars that Joe Biden unsealed and unfroze to then use to attack Israel. Putin was not going into Ukraine, and Xi was not threatening Taiwan. And even little Rocket Man. We got to get Rocket Man as a bounce back coming up here soon as well. Even little Rocket Man was held at bay. Why? Because the bullies need to be bullied. The bullies need a bigger bully. And for all of Donald Trump's warts, he's a bigger bully in the schoolyard, and that's what the bullies need right now, all over the world. And Donald Trump's that guy. And I can't help but think that's something as well that made a difference when it came to the American electorate last night across all demographics. Donald Trump has put together the most diverse coalition in the Republican Party in modern American history. If people are going to wake up today on the other side and simply say, oh, you know, the racist, misogynist, the sexist, that's what got him elected, you are completely lost on what just happened. 913-408-7957. Walter's in Spring Hill, first up on KCMO. What's up, Walter?
Good morning, Pete. Just want to say this is your proud white supremacist, garbage, Nazi, black male voter that is very happy and celebrating this morning. I tell you what, old Joe Biden is probably saying, see, this is the karma that you got for pulling a coup on me. So, he's probably laughing.
Well, thank you, Walter, the proud white supremacist black male this morning on KCMO. Did you see Joe Biden was dressed in a red pantsuit yesterday? I'm not saying she voted for Trump, but if you don't think that was a unique way for her to send a message, Jill Biden walks in and out of the voting booth in a bright red pantsuit. Maybe you think Joe Biden was just like, oh, this one looks really good today. I find a hard time believing there was not a subliminal message being sent there. I'm just throwing it out there. Not saying she voted for him, but just do it that way you want. Ann in Kansas City, what's up?
Hi. I was just calling because I feel like we're already starting to hear it. You didn't elect Kamala because she's a black woman. And that is a fallacy. That is ridiculous. I don't care that she's black. I don't care that she's a woman. I care that she is incoherent, unintelligent, cannot express herself, has no idea what she even stands for. I mean, it's very insulting, really.
It
to call us racist because we didn't elect her.
It is. But, and especially as a woman, you're going to be told, hey, Ann, you didn't do your job. You let the American people down. You let women down, Ann. What's wrong with you?
Well, tell that to the how many millions of other Americans who have the same reply, who have the same answer. Women, men, black, Latino.
Yep.
It's a narrative that just is not going to float.
No, it's not. I mean, anyone who looks at the numbers can't possibly believe that. Thank you very much there, Ann. I appreciate it. Paula is in Kansas City. What's up, Paula?
Yes. Well, I have two things I want to say. The first thing is, since they've taken the Senate over and the House, hopefully, and the executive branch, the Republicans had better accomplish something in the next two years. And my second thing is, I listen to you every morning, but this morning at 10 o'clock, I'm going to have to go watch The View because the meltdown's going to be amazing.
It's the one day where I'll say, if you got to turn off KCMO, Paula, just briefly, to watch The View, to joy watch The View, and joy watch Joy Behar, I will allow it, Paula.
Okay, well, it's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
I may have to join you and do just that. Thank you, Paula. I may have to get a mimosa going. Not a Bloody Mary guy, never have been, never will be. But get a mimosa going, kick my feet up, stream The View, and I may bathe in those tears. I might just do it.